All right, we're going to start again. If everyone could be seated, please. Okay, Brian, let's deer and elk.
Okay, at least it's just two.
Only.
I won't reiterate all of the information that provided at the onset. Just that we've got a whole lot of justifications. This is the topic that we've got probably the most recommended changes, and probably also the topic that has the most amendments currently for consideration today. Also, I'm sure that we'll have a great deal of input. We've certainly had a great deal of it as we went through the public process. Looking at the kind of the summary of information, we've got the season dates there. And the one thing I want to bring everyone's attention to is that the youth days, the deer youth hunt, and they're tied to Montana Education Associations, the days when the teachers are off. And so that largely dictates when students will be out of school. And this is going to be one of those years when those youth dates overlap with the archery season dates. Doesn't happen all the time, but kind of with the calendar rotation, it does. And so just want to be upfront that our proposed dates this year does include that overlap. Then there's several specific changes we're recommending as part of this. One is to amend the language for the definition of muzzleloaders within the weapons restricted area. This differs from the heritage season. The heritage season is designated through statute. The weapons restricted areas, it provides in certain areas like 388 around Helena, where a specific series of limited weapons can be used, and a muzzleloader is one of them. What this change does is largely brings it in line with the current directive that enforcement has provided for hunters that use that in that area. And so it's essentially been in place for probably at least 5 years, but we're just bringing that in and making the definition clear. Also adding a definition for first and only choice. This has been something that's we've used it in this fashion before. If it's first and only choice, that means if they're kind of the summary of it is it's not available for surplus. It's only available if you put it in for it in the draw. And there's been some confusion with the public on that in the past. And so we wanted to provide a clear definition of that. We've also had a kind of a clarification of the bag limit for resident hunters to indicate that you can harvest one deer on each up to 7 deer B licenses and a deer on your general license. So that's 8 deer. There's been some confusion on that. I think it's important to point out that House Bill 281, or I'm sorry, Senate Bill 281 was adopted last year that restricts the access of non-residents to B licenses. And so if a non-resident draws a combo tag, they have access to 2 B licenses. If they do not, it's only a single. If the commission chooses to allow non-residents to have more than that's a provision within the statute. However, it has to be specifically called out and specifically identified. None of the department's recommendations include that provision, but that's something that's available to the commission should they choose to use it.
You all have a copy of that also, the bill?
Also, we had a designation we called a single region deer B license for whitetails. We're recommending elimination of that. Some instances we want to be able to have a multiple deer B licenses in a hunter's hand within a single region when that's been possible. But For our whitetail populations, they're not in the same situation our mule deer are. And so in instances where we're looking to increase harvest, if someone gets a single region B license in one area, want to be able to make sure they have access to it in another. Then we have a series of summary, and I'm going to not go over each of the changes because they're relatively extensive. They're all within the packet. There's several for deer. There's probably a page and little approaching 2 pages for deer, and about 2.5 on elk. Those are all detailed, and again, they're all part of the regulations, the mock-up that are in your package. They're all highlighted the same way. Somewhat of a late addition, I do want to bring the commission's attention to, and the public. We just recently adopted the 2023 elk management plan. And at one point in a discussion, the commission had requested that we provide a document that kind of lays out a little bit more clearly how it is our special management districts for elk. And so there's a document that was provided to the commission. It looks like this. It was available on the website for the public. It just, we put it up rather late. But what this does is for the special management districts, and several of those are under discussion today. What it provides is a comparison of what the objectives were in the 2005 plan and what they are now. For clarity, we have not adopted any new special management districts. We basically adopted those units that we've already been managing in that fashion. And so hopefully this gives a little more clarity to that discussion, because I'm sure there'll be some discussion as we go through. There's also, as I mentioned before, with any hunting district boundary changes, we've got these identified and lined out, underlined, italics for additions and strike through for removals. A lot of it is primarily just to address minor changes, nothing major within there that I'm aware of. And there are a couple of amendments that have been offered by the commission and one at our request. And when those are considered, we have tried to recommend additional language in our rationale and our response that will help clarify how if an amendment is adopted, how it could be best incorporated. That's pretty much a real quick overview of deer and elk, but I'd sure be willing to try to address any questions the commission may have. Certainly a lot of expertise within the regions if necessary.
Yeah, go ahead, Director.
Madam Chair, just a further comment on Senate Bill 281. So I know there's been a number of comments to commissioners, to the department as well, wanting the commission to take some action in terms of limiting non-resident participation in Deer B. The legislature has done so. So that bill was not in effect last season. It takes effect March 1st with our new license year. So that restriction of one license, unless you've drawn a combo tag, is the status quo. So it will go into effect regardless of what the commission does. If you want to make an exception of that, you would need to take an overt action to do so. But wanted to make it clear to the public and to the commission that restriction is going into effect with the Senate Bill 281's effective date of March 1st. Madam Chair.
Are there any questions on that, on the bill? Commissioner Tabor, did you have something? Okay.
Getting really comfy.
Getting ready. Okay. So as we've done the rest of them, what I would ask for is the basic motion, and we will amend from there.
Madam Chair, I move the Fish Wildlife Commission vote to approve Changes identified in the deer and elk regulation mock-up to include opportunities, season dates, quotas, and quota ranges as presented by the department. And all other deer and elk regulations contained in the 2023 regulations, except for those affected by regular calendar rotations unless addressed in some other proposal to be adopted for the 2024 and 2025 deer and elk hunting seasons and districts.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Lane. Okay. I'm going to do like I did before and just kind of go in order of the amendments as they are in my binder. Commissioner Brook, you are first with your HD 313, 314.
Okay, 313, 314 is an amendment that is going to redo the boundary back to a historic boundary between 313 and 314, which is the boundary of the Yellowstone River. We did get a lot of comments about this, and there are people here today to testify. But my proposed amendment is I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission eliminate the proposal to realign the hunting district boundaries between deer. Oh, this is the wrong one. I'm sorry. 313, sorry. That's the next one. Sorry.
It should be the first one in your
The
binder.
first one in my binder. Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission approve the adjusted boundary descriptions for 313 and deer elk hunting districts, 313 and 314 that is intended to adjust the deer boundary that extends west of the Yellowstone River to the west to the Yellowstone River. Sorry.
Is there? Okay. Commissioner Siebel? Okay. Brian, would you like to speak to that?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. There, I guess I would start by saying that regardless of whatever boundaries the commission should choose, the department certainly has the ability, we biologically will be able to manage towards that. But with this particular amendment, what this would have the effect of probably changing some of our current recommendations that we have as far as permit levels. I don't think we would recommend a change to the overall quota range, but essentially it would be the change would eliminate part of the area that's currently open to the antlerless hunting. And so we would recommend reducing the antlerless by about, going from 50 to 25 for the general and 50 to 25 for the youth and permit to hunt from a vehicle. And so those would be the primary biological changes we would recommend. I might add that some of the rationale that we've seen kind of in the chatter on why to make this change seems a little inconsistent with what the boundary change would be. But we could certainly make it work regardless of what the commission's decision.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay. If not, we will vote on this amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a question for clarification. Would that motion include any permit reductions as recommended by the department?
So we would have to
You'd have to.
we'll have to redo the amendment if that is what you're would like to do, Commissioner Brook.
No.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, Commissioner Brook. If adopted, what we would recommend is that the 313 youth B license be reduced to 25 and the B license for hunters of any age being reduced to 25 as well,
From,
from 50. They're
From
currently
50.
50 each.
reduce it by half
Yes,
for 313,
for the 313.
314.
313, correct?
Yes.
The new 313, the
Yes, from the feedback that I got from the people that live out there, when I told them that, they were okay for this year. So do we have to put that in the amendment?
Yes, if that's what you'd like to do.
So what's the effect if we don't?
I think I would defer on objective to Warren.
Certainly. Thanks again, Chair Robinson, members of the commission, Chair, Commissioner Brooke. Well, to clarify some of this, so we currently have a regulation in place with a limited permit for youth hunters. Brian, are you also speaking to our proposal that expands upon that permit and to the general public permit that we have proposed? I believe that is the case, and that our current system provides the opportunity for, I think it's 50 youth hunters. We have a proposal to expand that. I'm sorry, I think it's 60 youth hunters. And we have a proposal to reduce that to 50 youth hunters and add an additional 50 general public permits for cows. So essentially growing the permit opportunity from 60 to 100 between both youth and general public opportunities. Our recommendation, if the boundary were to change into a new 313, is to eliminate our expansion of general of the permits from 60 to 100 and keep it at a total permits of 50, 25 youth and 25 general public.
I don't see any purpose in reducing it.
Okay, I certainly understand that. Would you like any rationale from the region
Sure.
for that reduction?
Sure.
Thank you for that opportunity. Our rationale is that the Northern Yellowstone elk population, I don't think would be considered as a robust population from the vital rates that we measure. The recruitment rate of calves into that population is in the low teens. What we typically would consider a healthy recruitment rate into an elk population would be in the mid-20s, low 30s. Additionally, the proportion of elk that migrate into Montana and winter in Montana, the bull-cow ratio is also some of the lowest we see in the state, around 3 bulls to 100 cows wintering in Montana. That does not include, to be clear, the entire population wintering in both Wyoming and Montana. So from those two vital rates, we would recommend that the population wouldn't be able to sustain, given the boundary change, significant increased cow harvest based on those vital rates that we measure.
Follow-up question. So are the bulls staying in the park and that's why the bull cow ratio is low?
Correct.
So it's not really low.
When you count the entire Northern Yellowstone population on both sides of the Wyoming and Montana border, it is closer to 10 bulls per 100 cows, which we would consider a healthy bull cow ratio among most elk herds. But the way we currently manage the population is elk in Montana.
I think it seems like we could get away with reducing the number and then seeing what moves forward with the boundary change in future years. So, do I need to amend?
Yes, if you do want to change the numbers, you would have to, or you have to start over, just make another motion.
Okay.
Even though we've already
The friendly
passed
amendment.
it.
Do the friendly amendment now.
Yeah, okay. We will vote on the amendment again if you are willing to do a friendly
Is it the
amendment.
highlighted one? Okay. Okay, so do I need to redo the whole amendment?
No, just make a friendly amendment.
Okay, and I would like to offer a friendly amendment to reduce HD 313 youth B licenses to 25 and the B licenses for hunters of any age to 25.
Commissioner Siebel, do you accept that?
I accept that, yes.
Okay. All right. So we're voting on the amendment with the friendly amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay. Then your Commissioner Brooke, if you want to go ahead with your next one.
Okay. This is a amendment that has been requested by the department. I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission eliminate the proposal to realign the hunting district boundaries between Deer Elk Hunting District 339 and 421 and retain the existing boundary as described on page 26 and 29 in the 2022-2023 hunting district legal descriptions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Tabor. Brian, would you like to speak to that one, please?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this was, we asked that this be carried and, we think it's a good idea, or we said so.
Any questions? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment on the table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Commissioner Siebel, you are up next with the 555 general.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the background for from my amendments to 555 and 502 mostly stem from the June 2021 Robertson Draw Fire. I believe it was a couple seasons ago. Well, let me stick to 555 first. The Robertson Draw Fire happened in June of 2021. Counts were down after that, and there was some question about what was going to happen with the elk distribution along the east face of the Beartooth. And as we've seen this year, both the department and hunter and landowner observations, there is a tremendous amount of elk, typically or expected that or suspected that they're moving up from Wyoming. And those herds in Wyoming coming up from the Clark's Fork have had a known prevalence of brucellosis in the herd, which is a concern for the state of Montana. As such, the amendments here that deal with 555 and 502 are really to re-separate hunting district 555 from hunting district 502, which is to the north, and then establish new ranges and a larger cow harvest for hunting district 555. And that's what my amendments on this page and then on the next page of the book intend to do. So if you'd like, would you like me to can I make this all as one motion? They're all combined as far as the logic and the reasoning. Can I make them all as one motion with 4 different changes?
I think so. Yes, go ahead, because then we don't have to rehash it.
Okay. I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission adopt the following amendments to the proposed 2024 and 2025 elk regulations. Number 1 is modify the quota range on LPT 555-00 from 15 to 50 to 15 to 100. Number 2, is to add LPT 005-00, the Elk B license back to hunting district 555. And like other LPT 00500, this would not be valid on national forest lands after the general season. And then moving on to my next ones, I also, in addition, number 3, modify LPT 50220, make it valid only in hunting district 502, and set a quota at 5 either sex tags. And finally, number 4, create LPT 55520, which is valid only in HD hunting district 555, and set that quota at 25 either sex tags.
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Burrows, second. Okay. Brian, would you like to speak to that, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. The department has no opposition to either of those amendments that Commissioner Siebel has offered. It does remind me, though, that one thing I failed to mention at the outset, and I think the commission is well aware of this, but so that everybody knows, we have part of our recommendation is to remove quota ranges for the permits for bulls or for elk or for deer. And what that does is essentially permits and licenses differ. Permits are for bulls or either sex, or for antler bucks or either sex. And so in this instance, what we're discussing is eliminating the range. So once the commission sets these, and it's consistent with Commissioner Siebel's recommendation, he made a recommendation for a number of permits. We are not seeking any quota ranges for those. Any changes to the bull segment, we would come back to the commission to make those adjustments in the future.
So the amendments as presented do not conflict with what you're looking for.
You are correct.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay.
Madam Chair, I would defer, I'm going to defer my amendment on HD 700 to Vice Chair Tabor, who also submitted the same amendment.
Okay, I'm up next, so. Yeah, in my binder I am.
Yeah, mine too.
Would you like to do yours first? Easy for, okay. All right, so the FWP asked me to carry this to, I'm just gonna read the amendment. I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission adopt the nope. I back up. I move to eliminate the Deer B license and season for either sex mule deer LPT 699-20 in HD 600 and in HD 670, and eliminate the Deer B license and season for either sex mule deer LPT 699-21 in HD 640 and HD 670.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Tabor, second it. Okay, there was a lot of pushback on this, and I agree with carrying this because we need to go back to the drawing board and have a lot more communication with the hunters, the landowners, before something like this is implemented. So I do stand in agreement with this resolution or amendment, I guess. So would you like to speak to that, Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I think you summarized the rationale fairly well, and I don't think we have anything further to add at this point.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. Commissioner Tabor, Region 7 antlerless. No, 417, HD 417.
Well, if we jump back up to Brian's deal, it was duplicated, so I'm just gonna
Okay, sure.
start with.
Okay,
So I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission adopt the following amendment to the proposed 24-25 elk regulations. LPT 700-20, increase either sex elk quota from 200 to 250. LPT 700-21, increase either sex elk quota from 660 to 800.
I second.
Commissioner Tabor and Commissioner Siebel. Is there any questions? Well, I guess, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The department doesn't have any objection to this. I think there's some misunderstanding of the 2005 deer elk plan did have a bull to cow ratio of 30 to 100. And that was the changes that the region and the department approved we're trying to address. However, that is on an upward trend. We did reduce licenses this year. We're going to conduct surveys this upcoming year to see whether or not that had any effect. Biologically, this will have no impact on the population and the department has no objection.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, antlerless.
417.
Okay,
You okay with that?
go ahead. Yep.
I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission reestablish the historic boundary for HD 417, switching the northwest boundary back to its original location of the Stafford Ferry Road.
Second.
Is that
And
Commissioner Walsh, is that? Okay,
I believe I have to amend it, Brian, because it also affects the neighboring one. I was unclear in the department's response in that.
Can you
Madam
move your-
Chair, Commissioner, Vice Chair Tabor, that is correct. We've recommended what we would suggest as being the boundary description for each of those, and we'd recommend that you include that.
Brian, when you speak, can you make sure that microphone's up to you? No, thank
You
you.
bet.
So Sarah, do I need to add that to that?
Yes.
So
Yes,
I'll
you do.
read what the department had. It had 417 defined as Armels Creek. Those portions of Fergus County line within the following described boundary beginning at Hilger, then eastern and northerly to US Highway 91 to the Missouri River, then westerly up said river to Stafford Ferry Road, then south on said road to the DY Trail, then westerly on the said road to Route 236 at Winifred, then south on said route, US Highway 191 at Hilger in the point of the beginning. And then 426 would be modified for those portions of Fergus and Judith Basin counties lying within the following described boundary, beginning at Suffolk and then north following Route 236 to Winifred, then northeasternly on the DY Trail to the Stafford Ferry Road, then northerly along said road to the Missouri River, then up said river in a westerly direction to the mouth of Arrow Creek, and up said creek to the State Route 80, then south and then south on State Route 81, then easterly along said route near Denton to Plum Creek County Road, then northerly and easternly along said road to Salt Creek Road, then southeasternly along Salt Creek Road to its junction with Route 236, approximately 3 miles north of Hilger, then north on Winifred Road to Suffolk to the point of the beginning.
Second.
That's friendly amendment. Hilger. I just had to, it's Hilger. Hilger, yeah. Any questions?
That's close enough.
Yeah. Are there any questions? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, next one.
I move that the Fish and Wildlife Commission establish rules that limit the hunting and harvest of antlerless mule deer in Region 7 to valid only on private land. And that on the public lands and those lands enrolled in block management in Region 7 be closed to the taking of antlerless mule deer.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Burrows seconded. Okay, discussion.
Brian.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. From a biological standpoint, restricting antlerless take on further is unlikely to have a biologically meaningful effect. It won't have any harm on the population. Be clear about that. But the region and the department have already reduced licenses on public land from the B licenses from 11,000 in about 4 or 5 years ago to 1,000 today. In addition, we came to the commission in June and restricted the general season opportunity on that. And so there's very small proportion of licenses that are still valid. In addition, we anticipate that we may have some negative effects with enrollment in our block management program because of the excluding them from this particular exercise. But again, I'll be clear, it will not have a detrimental biological effect on the population.
Discussion.
Madam Chair, so just so you know, and I think you guys have heard me say this in previous meetings, but in general, when the topic of mule deer comes up, I have this just deep-seated, genuine concern about the sustainability of the population. And so the very first cut we would always look at would be the female population. And clearly what happens is because of the advent of a lot of the public where they can go, they just absolutely hammer the deer in those areas. And then of course, what you wind up having is redistribution into private land and everything else. And so I'm eager to hear what the public comment is on this. But under the spirit of, we need to do everything in our power to make sure the sustainability of the populations was very compelled to carry this motion.
Commissioner Lane.
I just have a few concerns with it. One thing I had originally stated about this was there's already hunter and landowner relationship issues. And my concern with this originally was, are we just going to make it worse if the private land, we're saying these are strictly for use on private land, but if they can't get access due to the landowner, is that just going to make this relationship worse? And that's, I definitely want to have that out there for the public to comment on. But also I do have a problem with this not being allowed on block management. It's private ground, just like everything else. Yes, it's open to the public, but those people have enrolled that. I still think it should be part of this proposal.
Other comments?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Siebel?
I will kind of reiterate what Commissioner Lane just said too, because I am concerned as well that we're trying to encourage landowners to be part of the block management program, and those that are paid on hunter access days, this could be detrimental to the incentive to be in the block management program. So I'm concerned about that as well, and would ask Vice Chair Tabor if he would entertain a friendly motion to remove the reference to block management in the motion.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Siebel and Lane, what I'd like to do is just hold it as it is now, and let's get through public comment, and then I'm absolutely open to adjusting it after we hear from everyone. But I think we have a couple of data points. I know a lot of people are weighing in on this. I'd just like to have a really rich dialogue before we make that change and pull it off.
I am strongly opposed to the block management being put in there, and that is where I would stand on this. I think the FWP has spent a lot of time trying to build relationships, and it is private land, and they could still allow the access and still have I mean, open to the public. That doesn't mean they're all going to lock their lands up. So I am strongly opposed to the block management being included in it. Any other comments?
I have a comment. And why was this particular to Region 7 and not, and maybe Commissioner Robinson can speak to Region 6. I don't know a lot about it, but just anecdotally hearing and seeing the pressures that come out of there. And I know there's a mentality because I talked to, like I said, I hunted over there this winter and got to talk to some of those non-resident hunters. And there is a mentality of shifting from, this is our goal is a nice buck, to a small buck, and now to we want to come home with something. And is there any appetite or palatability? Because I don't know what the mule deer numbers over there, but I hear generally we're concerned about our mule deer numbers across the state. Is there any appetite to pick some of these areas in Region 6 or region wide to eliminate some of this mule deer harvest that we have over there?
So there is a petition that was put out by someone in Region 6 and signed by several people that want to limit the antlered mule deer taken to 50 per hunting district. I think that it's, to me, this is a larger conversation. And I think that if we're just going to piecemeal and do different hunting districts, it's just going to push the pressure onto other hunting districts. And so I guess this is just as good a time as any that I was really going to try to get FWP. I know they're going to be starting to work on their deer plan, to sit down and look at it, because I know I guess we don't have the numbers for Region 6 this year yet, but the on the ground, the people that are on the ground, and I'm not talking people that are just driving the roads, I'm talking people that are really on the ground. It is across the board that the numbers are down. As far as the petition goes, if we want to affect the numbers, I think it's the antlerless that, but there are very few bucks, I guess, in our area. So I don't know what the answer is, but I don't know that we can fix it today without affecting another hunting district accidentally.
It just seems to me what I hear is a good way to start, and it to Commissioner Tabor's motion is let's eliminate the killing of the mule deer does to start with, because we know that that's going to help the population, whether bucks follow that or not. But what I hear constantly is frustration with the heart when we say we have a problem with mule deer doe populations and we're having either sex ability in some of these areas to harvest. And it seems to me like it seems like a no-brainer when you've got a struggling population to eliminate the doe harvest. Whether that helps out with the quantity and quality of bucks, I don't know, but I think you could argue that it definitely will help out with the population. And I guess it would make a lot of sense to me to add Region 6 to this motion as well.
So my question is, what kind of pressure is it going to put on the landowners? Because this is just, so it would be private only of where, correct?
I would support in that. I agree with you. I would support block management being allowed for harvest, which opens up quite a bit of an area, but it also protects some of the, maybe they can find areas where they can be protected, because Region 6 has a lot of block management, but also has some big chunks of BLM where those does may have a safe haven. I still think you'd have a lot of mule deer doe harvest opportunities between private and all the block management, but would create some safe space for, Bitter Creek Wilderness area, places like that they may be able to go. And
just Phillips County, for example, has about 1 million acres of, and I'm just talking federal land. So there's a lot of public land in the county. I guess I wouldn't be opposed to adding Region 6 to it if block management was taken out of there, just to see what I guess the effect is we've had several years of drought. We have water and we have grass this year, but I would be interested in what FWP has to say about it.
Madam Chair, if with my understanding is there are places within Region 6, especially, and I think I would like to defer to them and have them respond. But it's my understanding that there are places within Region 6 that are actually there may be places where we're concerned, and even outside of the CWD concerns and issues there may be places that we have concerns about, places where the mule deer are not necessarily in decline. And there are a number of places, to think about it from a statewide perspective, there's a number of places where we have some of the urban deer issues and things of that nature that we certainly want to have in mind. And so we haven't really had a good opportunity to think about this more broadly. And so there's some challenges there, but if we could see if Region 6 might perhaps have some response to this particular question.
So Region 6, are you on? The urban deer plan is private. I guess it's not on public land.
I'm sorry, guess that.
An urban deer plan would not be on public land.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But there are oftentimes public lands surrounding that. For instance, I'm thinking of the Helena area deer plan. There's certainly some of the surrounding areas. 388 is a weapons restricted area. That there is a specific B license specifically for that area that addresses some of that population. So at times the public lands in those areas can influence the private.
Okay. Commissioner Burrows?
And maybe just in response to that, in my mind was, it seemed like we gave pretty broad authority for game damage and special CWD hunts. And if we excluded those allowances out of this motion, that gives the department quite a bit of flexibility, up to 5,000 deer for CWD purposes. So it seems like we take off that general season mule deer doe harvest allowance, but the department still has some flexibility in the cases of like a CWD area to go in and say, we have up to 5,000 deer tags that we can issue for a site specific CWD issue.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Burrows, the example I was just using with 388 around the Helen area, CWD is not an issue there. Just
But a game damage hunt, would it fit into that?
In some instances, but it isn't quite as broadly the issue there.
But that's not even in the districts that we're talking about either, though.
That's what I was just gonna say is 388 would be outside of the
6 and 7.
region 6 and 7. So that's what I was proposing, was an addition of regions, just
But
region 6.
Region 6 is up. So did you catch what we're discussing? Can't hear.
Yes, we did, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I'm Scott Thompson. I'm the wildlife manager in Region 6. I think Mr. Wakeling was asking about some of our areas that we do continue to have more abundant mule deer populations. And we do in fact have some areas north of Highway 2 that, according to our spring survey information, remain well above average. Certainly that was our spring counts, and we're looking forward to our postseason information to guide where we go into the next hunting season.
Do you have specific hunting districts that you're referring to?
640 is in the very northeast corner of the region, and it, as of last spring, was 188% above average for our mule deer trend. And 600 and 670 also remained above average, but not nearly that high, more like 40% above average.
Madam Chair. I just want to address the block management issue and just take it in sections. So if we're concerned about the overall female population of mule deer in Region 7, which is where this started, we'd take it in tranches, and it's kind of the same reason why we look to split the antelope and everything else. And I think a lot of times we have these population counts in a fairly large basis, but then when you get right down to it, where are the deer? And they're clearly heavily concentrated on private land that's not open to block management. That's kind of where all the deer are. And you hear that a lot from landowners and everything else. Where they're not, and where they continue to be in decline, is in the public land areas and is in the block management areas of Region 7. So that's why this proposal was phrased this way. And so again, if it's not the will of the commission to include block management, I know a lot of people that are enrolled in block management, and I'll just say this pretty succinctly. I think if they are involved in something that ultimately will lead to the demise of a population, and they're doing that just so they can collect money for block management, I'd question why you're in the program. So, the sustainability of the population should be our overall goal. And that's where that's really where the concern is. Having said that, if we can't get any movement on this at all to protect the doe population, and only doing it on public land is the way it'll go, I'll come right back with a motion if this one's defeated. Because I do think we have to do something here relative to the protection of the doe population in that region. The amount of feedback that we've gotten since I've been on the commission, and even prior to that, with the observation of the people in that area, has been pretty consistent here. And it's also, again, debated because I think of the way we count versus where they are versus where everybody else happens to see them. So that's why I proposed it.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Siebel.
Just a question for the department could we make the block management piece be an opt-out or an election of the block management holder, whether they want to allow mule deer hunting or not?
It is. I mean, each block management participant decides which species are allowed in the block management, correct? And I take a little bit of offense to saying that it's because of the money for the block management. We've been in block management for 23 years. It's not for the money. So anyway, I still stand and opposed to it.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Siebel.
So along those lines, and even along the lines of Vice Chair Tabor's, comments on, we kind of talk about region-wide population trends, but there are definitely concentrations. If we amended it where the block management participant had the discretion, and it sounds like they do, but we take, they could opt in and have harvest if they have a high population, or opt out if they have low population, give them the choice. And that would be, I don't know exactly how to word that, but to leave that option up to the landowner themselves on block management would I think might help solve our problem.
Could you
address both Vice Chair Tabor's concerns and yours?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Siebel, so this is getting tricky real fast. And one of the issues we have with game damage assistance specifically speaks to landowner restrictions on public harvest. And so if you put this in the hands of the landowner, for whatever reason, again, I would not want to see us inadvertently put a landowner position where, by doing what they think is the right thing, that they render themselves ineligible for game damage assistance. If we saw that, I would just say this: I understand the vice chair's position. I also understand, taking lots of phone calls, lots of comments, lots of emails myself about the general concern of mule deer, particularly in eastern Montana. Fair concerns for sure. As the chair mentioned, we will be picking up the mule deer plan next month. Not all mule deer hunting districts are created equal. Conditions vary widely. Montana's a really big state, really big landscapes. We've got a lot of information in the department that needs some analysis. We've got a lot of stakeholders we need to talk to. I would caution against a shotgun here. If you've got a specific change you want to make, obviously it's within the commission's purview. There's going to be lots of conversation with the department, with stakeholders, and with commissioners during the revision of the mule deer plan this next year. So again, I know Commissioner Siebel, that's not a great answer to your question, but like I said, we're getting down a rabbit hole that's got lots of twists and turns in it. And I would just advise caution.
So in Region 6, it's pretty much our northern hunting districts north of Highway 2. That seems like that the FWP feels that they do have higher numbers. I know that they have a lot of pressure from non-residents, and I'm afraid if we did go with Region 6 and we excluded them, that would just extremely make the pressure worse. That's why, I mean, I'm back to my same, I really think it's a big picture thing that we need to see what one decision is going to affect the adjoining hunting district.
Madam Chair, but to be clear right now, all that's on the table is the proposal for Region 7.
Right.
I don't think I know there was a suggestion of including Region 6, but I wasn't prepared to do that. So.
Any other?
I'm fine taking it as a separate if there's not consensus right now on dropping, I guess what I would be in favor of at this point is dropping block management out and adding Region 6. So that way we've got the allowance for mule deer doe harvest on private and including block management. But if we want to take just Region 7 with block management included on that prohibition, I'm fine either way.
So Commissioner Tabor has the motion, so it's up to him.
Chair Robinson, just a clarifying question. Would you exclude these 3 hunting districts that are over the average?
First shot, I would like to take it holistically because I think if we do exclude some region, we may see a pressure out of an adjacent Region 7 come into 6. And I mean, I guess I would rather err on the side of caution the first year. And if we get to the point where we see that 180% go to 200%, but I still think there's the allowance for game damage and CWD because Region 6 does have some CWD. I think there's a lot of management flexibility if the department decides in that region that we need to take some mule deer does out of this area. I think that allowance is there, but we're simply just saying we're going to take that hunter allowance out of making that management decision. So
Region 6, could you speak a little bit to the CWD prevalence in those the hunting districts that you said were above?
Yes, certainly, Chair Robinson, members of the commission. We've measured CWD prevalence in mule deer in those districts since about 2018. The prevalence continues to go up in mule deer, and our current estimates in District 600 is 14% prevalent in mule deer. In 640, it's 10%, and in 670, it's 8%. And so our CWD management plan calls for trying to maintain prevalence at 5% or less. So with these increasing rates, it certainly is a concern for us.
Do you have any input in if Region 6 was covered? I mean, added to this motion and possibly doing more like game damage hunts to for the CWD control.
Chair Robinson, members of the commission, I think one thing to consider is these are relatively migratory herds of mule deer. And so, certainly at times we do see a significant shift out of Canada to both public and private lands. In years like this, where we don't see as much migration, that's less evident. Certainly a broader tool of to potentially maintain a bit lower density of mule deer in these areas where we have CWD is a potential management strategy, trying to reduce those densities on those areas. So yes, I think we could come in with CWD management specific hunts. We would certainly need to do our more work with our stakeholders with those, because certainly the proposal we had this year met some significant opposition. So, but yes, that could be a potential.
But they would be seeing a lot less pressure during the regular hunting season.
That is true, Chair Robinson. However, much of our pressure, you could arguably point to folks that are looking for antlered harvest as well. So the impacts of just changing antlerless harvest is really uncertain how it's going to impact some of the hunter crowding issues or concerns.
What about the Senate bill that non-residents can only have one and a maximum of two of deer licenses?
Relative to hunter numbers, is that your question, Chair Robinson?
Yes.
Yes, I think there's going to be a couple of reactions. We've heard from some hunters already from non-residents that they likely won't return because of the limited opportunity. But the other side of this equation is that will now, in order to, I guess, sell those licenses out, that would require more hunters, i.e. if we had 7 licenses that someone previously could have held all 7, now that could potentially mean 7 hunters instead of 1 hunter. So I think we're really curious how that's going to impact our non-resident participation, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion as is, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion fails.
Madam Chair, I'd move that the Fish and Wildlife Commission establish rules that limit the hunting and harvest of antlerless mule deer in Region 7, valid on only private land, and that all public lands be in Region 7 be closed to the taking of antlerless mule deer.
I'll
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Tabor, Commissioner Siebel seconded it. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Burrows.
I'd move that the Fish and Wildlife Commission establish rules that limit the hunting and harvest of antlerless mule deer in Region 6 to valid on private land, and that all public lands in Region 6 be closed to the taking of antlerless mule deer.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Walsh seconded. Okay, Commissioner Siebel.
Right. I guess sitting here listening to Region 6 and understanding the significance of CWD, which we have done in my region as well. My big concern about adding Region 6 in a blanket is listening to the prevalence rates in 600, 640. I didn't get all those, the 14%, 10%, 8%, which are well above the 5% target. It seems like this is going to be especially given the amount of public land in 600, this could actually be counterproductive when it comes to battling CWD, especially taking this wide swath approach of no harvest on public land.
Are there further comments on it?
Madam Chair, my inclination not to do Region 6 is I don't think we have as big of a severe problem with antlerless populations in that region as we do in Region 7, or at least nobody's pointed that out to me. And so that's why I'm a little bit, that plus the CWD is why I'm a little reluctant to throw it all in just right now.
Commissioner Walsh.
Chair Robinson, this is just to echo Commissioner Tabor. This is one where I would really love to hear comments from the public.
Any further comments?
Just that I think if we would, again, a lot of it's anecdotal, but I do think we have some areas in there that are seeing, I'm talking to a lot of the people that are over there. It is anecdotal, but you hear more and more that there's less deer here. And maybe we do see, if they are migratory, maybe that's why we're seeing counts at different times. But I didn't talk to anybody really who was in opposite. When you talk to the general hunter over there, and even I didn't talk to a lot of the out-of-staters specifically with that, but there seems to be a real appetite to protect mule deer in that part of the country. And I just haven't heard from any of the sportsmen that are just adamantly opposed to being able to harvest a mule deer doe in that area. So
I guess the only thing I would say is there hasn't been a lot of mule deer bucks that have been seen. And if that's the only thing they can kill, then where do we end up on the ratio of bucks to does?
I mean, I guess my answer to that would be is we could take on the mule deer buck situation if we need to, but first and foremost, to help promote that population, I think you need to protect the does first and foremost. And then if we need to limit antlered harvest to some sort of limitation, possibly, but.
I have one more question for Region 6, please. So do you know the bull buck to doe ratio and mule deer? I know you don't have your counts from this year, but how are they sitting the last couple of years?
1 second, Chair Robinson. So are you interested at a regional scale or any particular parts of the region?
This motion is the region as a whole.
Okay.
Which you could give it to us, and if you have it broke down in hunting districts, and just run through those real quick.
In 2023, so this would be a year ago, most of our postseason flights are in December and January. We observed 25 bucks per 100 does across all of our areas. That was a 17% decrease in our buck ratios. And so this is at the regional scale. We are coming off a high mule deer population that peaked in about 2020. And so we're starting to see both numbers drop down to more average levels, and our buck ratios are also dropping down. I'd be happy to report on any individual districts as needed as well for buck ratios, Chair Robinson.
Are there any, I guess, regions, hunting districts that are low? I mean, that you would see as like a red flag?
Yeah, Chair Robinson, members of the commission, District 630 and our series of districts 621 and 622 all saw low buck ratios on our last year's counts, and I believe the 630 ratio was the lowest at, I believe it was 9. Sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. And then 621 and 622 was, I don't have that figure in front of me, but it was a very low count, and we've heard a lot of concerns out of those two areas.
That would be the area that I'm in, and I can attest to the on the ground of that. Commissioner Burrows.
Is there any evidence that not, you may skew your buck to doe ratio for a little while, but doesn't it stand to reason a little bit that just the more deer you have on the landscape, even if they're does, eventually your buck population would kind of catch up with that? And I don't know the biology of that. If you just have more deer on the landscape, especially does, do you tend to see your buck rate or your buck numbers come up as you allow more deer on the landscape?
Could you answer that, Scott?
Yeah, Chair Robinson, Commissioner Burrows, the ratio is I guess a measure of that proportion of the population that are bucks. And so if you have we certainly have areas with a high population that remain at a low buck ratio. And some of that is determined by the environmental characteristics of that area. Some of it's no doubt harvest or hunter pressure in those areas as well. And so it's not necessarily a direct relationship that just because we're going to have a higher population that we're going to increase the buck ratio. Commissioner Burrows, Chair Robinson.
Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
I meant to say aye and I.
Okay. For in a opposition. Okay. 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 So are we done? Are we out of amendments?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam
Okay, we wanna
Chair.
take a short break. Okay, we need to take a short break, I guess. Let's like just at 22, just like we'll reconvene at 22. Okay, thank you. We're gonna get started again. Sarah legal has an announcement to make first before we start on the public comment.
So on an unrelated subject, we've hit 5 of 6 of the wolf quota in 313. And so we're going to notify everybody here today and give public notice right now that the commission's going to have the required meeting under the regs for when we get within 25% of the wolf quota. That meeting will be electronic tomorrow via Zoom with call-in options at 4:00 tomorrow. There'll also be a press release shortly coming out about that. So notifying everybody publicly here. We'll also have public notice through the press release.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I know there's a lot to cover on the deer and elk. I am not going to split them apart. It is a 2-minute time limit. Just focus on, if everybody has to kind of tag team or whatever, but I'm just going to be consistent with what I've done. And so I will start with comments on deer and elk.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Director, Eric Albus from Hinsdale, last name Albus. I'm in favor of the private land doe only with restrictions to with Tabor's amendment and the other amendment. I'm in favor of them. And I live and ranch in both 6 and 7, and our mule deer numbers are in dire straits. We need help starting today, and I think this is a great first move. Thank you.
Thank you. Just make sure you spell your last names, please, thank you.
Hi, my name is Matt Wickens, Wickens. And I'm here to speak in favor of the amendment for the boundary change for 417 and 426. And actually, just to clarify, this really isn't a change. This is restoring the boundaries back to what they had historically been for years and years. And just a little history on this, if you're not familiar, it was just changed 2 years ago in an effort to streamline the regulations. And I don't know how it streamlined the regulations exactly, but locally it caused a lot of confusion and upset a lot of the local landowners. And what it did is the issue that it caused was the section that got cut out and thrown into 417 is biologically very different than, like, it aligns more with the unit that we had been in for decades. And then it threw us into the management of 417, which didn't match up with what was going on in our area. So, so I guess I would just ask everybody to support this common sense proposal. I did have a petition up here. I don't know if you're interested in seeing, but I went around, I have signatures from about 80% of the landowners that are affected in that area that was affected. And so I guess just by passing this, you can right the wrong and put us back in 426 where we belong. So thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead and give them to Eric, please. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commission members, Director Temple, my name is Paul Ellis, Ellis. I am full support of all the amendments, but I want to speak specifically to the 700 elk permits that were decreased in Region 7. I am for the Rifle Hunting District 720 and the Archery Hunting District 721. Elk permits back, I want to move them back to the way they were in the quotas in 2022. Region 7 reduced the quotas on April 4th of this year, 4 days after the draw deadline. They reduced the rifle permits from 250 down to 200 and the archery permits from 800 down to 660, reducing the total number of permits by 190. Every applicant that applied for these permits had based their decisions to put in for those permits with the quotas the way they were. So it wasn't really fair that they got reduced after the draw deadline. This reduction removed 45 resident rifle opportunities and 126 archery opportunities for a total of 171 resident hunters. It also removed 19 non-resident opportunities. Every resident archery hunter that applied as their first choice would have drawn that permit. This not only reduced the opportunity for 190 hunters, but it also caused the local communities to lose over $226,000 in lost tourism dollars. However, this isn't the first time these actions of the department and the commission have caused the break communities to lose tourism dollars. Their action in 2008 to implement the limited archery elk permits took over tens of millions of dollars out of those hunting districts from the years 2009 to 2016. Can you imagine how much that would be if you carried that forward? So I'm handing out that study that I referred to. It's going around. I hope I had enough copies for everybody, but I hope you do support this.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, my name is Jeff Lucas with Montana Wildlife Federation. I'd like to thank the Commissioner Tabor for proposing his R7 mule deer amendment. It started a really important conversation, as you can see. I would also like to state that the exclusion of block from the amendment is important because while it is publicly accessible land, block cooperators already have the ability to not allow antlerless harvest on their land. And we don't want to risk losing block cooperators for one rule. That said, due to the large number of proposals in this agenda item, I ask that the commissioners refer to the Federation's season setting comments that we submitted to the agency and commissioners for more granular details on our comments. Generally speaking, we're pleased to see the FWP act to protect mule deer populations by reducing the amount of B tags available or eliminating them altogether in some hunting districts. In areas where mule deer hunting has been based primarily on opportunity, but now has significant loss of herd size, we support more restrictive methods to restore the overall herd numbers, as well as seek a more diversified age structure of antlered animals. To this end, we support moving to limited entry in more areas first and foremost, as FWP can have a much more granular management strategy relative to hunter pressure, harvest metrics, and overall quality of the hunt while still allowing harvest if and where possible. For elk, we are pleased to see a more granular approach to elk management as well. In hunting districts over objective, we would like to see A tags be approved for harvesting cow elk on private lands and an improvement on how damage hunt rosters are filled out by constructing them with more local regional numbers. And a potential reduction in pressure on public lands via permit allocation where necessary. Lastly, MWF asks that adjustments to limited entry quota ranges and quota ranges for deer and elk remain in the hands of regional biologists, while the commission's ability to change them goes through the formal process of public commentary and a full vote for the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Chris Faber. I'm Region 6 Director of MOGA, and I'm also a landowner and outfitter in Region 6. I support all the amendments we have here. Last spring, the FWP Region 7 Department removed 190 elk permits from the drawing. I'm in favor of restoring those 190 permits. This permit removal was pretty quick. It wasn't science-based, and it seemed like people were complaining about overcrowding. And I just want to make a point about overcrowding. There's 190 permits that weren't issued here. Those 190 people don't go away. So they're going to go somewhere else and hunt. And Madam Chair, I appreciate what you said in Region 6 with what they're trying to do up there, a group of people trying to make the permit area in Region 6 of mule deer. That would be horrible. Where are all the hunters going to go? So we have to think about this when in Montana, when we're thinking about our own little turf and where we're at. When we try to get rid of our problem, we make it someone else's problem. And with this 190 permits that were taken away in Region 7, we didn't solve the problem. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Joseph Hawes. I'm with Montana Outfitters and Guides Association. I'm in Shoto, Montana. I support this. We support these amendments as proposed. In particular, I want to address the boundary change in District 417. This resolves some unintended consequences of an action taken a couple of years ago. But more importantly, it allows for more, as proposed, this would allow for more consistent, accurate, and effective conservation and management of the mule deer resource, and really allows more effective management of the based on ecology and land ownership parameters that exist between 426 and 417. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, my name is Kevin Farron with the Montana chapter of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. I'd just like to point out that 14 pages were needed to simply list the proposed deer and elk changes on the cover sheet for this meeting. The written justifications and discussions that followed were even more lengthy. So limiting the testimony today to 2 minutes for both deer and elk does seem a bit inadequate, especially when considering all of the amendments, including one that impacts a huge part of the state that was just dropped minutes ago. But I'll get on with it. The proposals to eliminate quota ranges for all deer and elk permits is deeply concerning to us. When coupled with the direction from the recently released elk management plan, which, keep in mind, we didn't have the luxury of seeing the final plan until just a few days ago after all the scoping meetings, after all these comments were due. But anyway, when you couple that with what we see in the elk management plan, this would create a scenario where this body could effectively eliminate any meaningful quotas or change our deer and elk hunting opportunities to a free-for-all, or just as concerning, could result in reductions in opportunities without biological justifications. Quota ranges must not be removed and must be set using a biologically backed, publicly vetted process, and should start with and be heavily influenced by our department's regional field staff and biologists. We just witnessed a great conversation about this to prove that point when we talked about the antelope quota range before we broke for lunch. You know, having the commission set a quota range and leaving the quota decision to the departments, or vice versa, quite frankly, kind of ensures a certain level of checks and balances when it comes to the management of our public resources. It would be lost if we removed the quota range entirely. We ask that the commission amend this part of the deer and elk proposals so that the quota ranges remain. And, you know, I could go on here and try to rapidly touch on all the things we commented on, but I'll just leave you with this reminder. You know, virtually this entire season setting process has taken place during the big game deer and elk hunting season, including this very meeting with the muzzleloader season still in play. None of this, you know, happened with real clarity on how these changes would fit with the new EMP. And compared to season setting processes before, this is about 2 months shorter. We just don't feel like all these ideas are being properly vetted. And we really would appreciate if you guys kind of act conservatively here, pump the brakes a little bit to make sure that we're still keeping the public and the trust as part of this process.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, may I pass these out?
Yeah,
Or-
go ahead and hand them to Eric and, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Rod Paschke, Jordan, Montana, last name Paschke. A lot of landowners in Region 7, specifically the Breaks, District 700, I should say, have voiced opposition to the actions taken by the regional staff by reducing the either sex elk permits, and they've also voiced a lot of support in reinstating said permits. Obviously, their big fear is our overabundance of elk up in that country. And the herd is growing exponentially, and they're very concerned about raising objective numbers, but decreasing harvest opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Will Israel, spelled I-S-R-A-E-L. I'm here on behalf of the Montana Outfitters and Guides Association. I support all of the amendments as stated, specifically supporting the amendment that removes antlerless mule deer in Region 7 on public land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners and Chair, I'm Jeff Dara, Executive Director of Montana Sportsman for Fish and Wildlife. I support all the amendments that we've talked about, but specifically I support Commissioner Brooks' amendment to change the boundary on 313 and 314, and also Commissioner Burrow's amendment on the mule deer does in Region 6. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Robinson, Commissioners. Again, my name is Stephen LePage, and that's spelled Lepage. And I'm with the Montana Bow Hunters Association. The MBA supports clearly defining first and only choice for license and permit opportunities that use that designation. We do not support offering surplus licenses or permits using the first and only choice designation. In addition, the Montana Bow Hunters Association does not support the elimination of quota ranges for deer and elk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, members of the Commission, Director Mac Menard, MINARD. I'm the Executive Director of the Montana Outfitters and Guides Association. I rise in support and appreciation for Commissioner Brooks. Efforts on 313, 314. This has been an ongoing thing. This makes a correction that is absolutely necessary to move forward. We appreciate the conservative efforts on private land and doe deer. We're looking at circumstances right now where you'll be challenged on permit areas, and we went from general season in mule deer to now the nuclear option of permits in some areas. This action is an intermediate step to help conserve those. We also support the opportunity that'll be presented by reinstating the 190 permits. I think Mr. Faber put it very, very well. We've got to stop just transporting one problem to another problem. There were those 5 very specific things that the public spoke to in their comments in the EMP and in virtually every other quadrant, and crowding was one of them. And every time we constrict it for some reason, we push it somewhere else. So we've got to be able to find that balance, and it can't just simply be pushed around. We've got to accept that there are people that need to do that. And so I appreciate the opportunity to comment to you. And I look forward to a good pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further commenters present? Okay. Is there anyone in the regional offices who would like to comment?
Madam Chair, have no comments from the regional offices.
Okay. Do we have people with their hands raised?
Madam Chair, we have hands raised in the Zoom room. I will let them in at your pleasure.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Sherm Russell, RUSSELL, Haber, Montana. I just recently moved over here a couple of years ago, spent 30 years over in the Flathead Valley. I am wholeheartedly in support of the mule deer. I'd like to get rid of every single antlerless mule deer tag in the statewide. I hunted the state first time ever in 1989. And anybody who spent any time here hunting mule deer knows that these mule deer are in dire straits. They have plummeted. I mean, I pulled some numbers off your own website. In 2017, we had 386,000 deer. 5 years later, we got 250,000. These are the old fish FWP's own numbers. So why do we continue to keep going down this path when the numbers are plummeting? Haber, the numbers were up 15% hunters, but the elk were down 34%. And we hear, well, weather. Well, that's just an excuse. The numbers are horrible. I requested permission to hunt on the Cowans in 690, and I got an email back telling me they wouldn't let me hunt deer there because they didn't have deer that they felt was worth hunting. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. And as far as I've hunted Colorado, Nevada, and Wyoming, I just ate my region deer tag in Wyoming this year. I could have shot a 150-60 buck, but their herds got decimated. So I left those bucks alone to breed and ate my tag. No problem. I have no problem doing that. But I'm getting tired of these non-residents thinking they have a privilege. It's a privilege for them to come here. Why are we giving them any antlerless tags at all? We're the only state that does this. We keep cutting, but we're basically taking away. We give out 66,000 non-resident deer and elk tags last year.
Thank you for your comments.
We're giving out more tags than we have elk.
Madam Chair, Logan Stanley.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
My name is Logan Stanley, Standley, from Lewistown, Montana, and I am vehemently opposed to limiting mule deer hunting in District 410 to 100 buck tags and 5 doe tags. Using FWP harvest statistics for 410, mule deer from 2012 to 2018 saw harvest increase by an average of 96 animals per year, and 61% of bucks harvested were 4 points or larger. 2018 to 2022 saw mule deer harvest decrease by an average of 95 animals per year. 58% of bucks were harvested were 4 points or bigger. We don't see a noticeable decrease in the proportion of mature bucks. The bigger change is increased doe and fawn harvesting, going from 3% average in 2012 to 2018 up to 13% average from 2018 to 2022, which I would argue this increased doe pressure with drought and other factors has contributed to decreased recruitment, population, subsequently harvest. Hunting pressure only showed a slight increase over the 10-year stretch. The population is a concern. The limitation of doe tags should solve, or at least help correct the problem. Newell and Meredith in 2018 in Montana found limited draw had almost no effect on recruitment and similar effect on population as compared to unlimited permit. Limited draw by far showed the lowest number of hunters and days in the study. Bishop et al. in 2005 in Colorado found recruitment actually declined in mule deer and limited draw applications. The only proven benefit by both studies is increased buck to doe ratios and increased maturing bucks. In the past 10 years, mule deer harvest has averaged 400 per year for that district and will drop to around 30 to 40 with new proposal based on success rates and numbers of tags issued. We should not sacrifice 350 plus full freezers and tens of thousands of hours of enjoyment by hunters just for the opportunity for a few individuals to harvest trophy bucks. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have a speaker. If you could please identify yourself and spell your last name.
Randy Adams, ADAMS. Madam Chair and Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity. Did I understand you that you're not going to make the change on the district change of 339 and 421? You play it for me.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We did this not for time for discussion. It's just time for a comment.
Okay, but did I understand that you were approving that boundary change or not?
Or
okay, I guess I'll just make a comment here. I'd like to thank Warren Hansen and District Region 4 for their input on this. It was my understanding that they're not going to make the change proposed, putting the southern edge of 421 into 399. However, I do have concerns. And the concerns are, is I first heard about this the very 1st of November from a hunter. And I'm probably the largest landowner leaseholder in the change of that district. And yet when you read that thing, it took me 4 hours to find it, but when you read it, it says the landowners were contacted and hunters and they were all in agreement. However, I contacted adjacent landowners. None of us had been contacted. I contacted numerous hunters and none of them were aware of it except for the one that brought this to my attention. So in the future, you know, we need to make sure that we're getting people involved when it's affecting their area. And again, I'd like to thank Mr. Hanson and Region 4 for their input.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a speaker REX. If you could please identify yourself and spell your last name.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Rex Martin, Martin, and I am from Lewistown, Montana. I am speaking in regard to the mule deer regulation change for hunting district 410 and 417. 100 special draw tags is very minimal for the sheer size of those districts. The main reason those deer numbers are struggling is because of the poorly managed elk population in those districts over the recent years. There has been false advertising in the elk tags in 410. More tags have been issued than there are elk in that district. With this district being overrun with elk hunters, of course the deer are going to take a hit. So due to poor management of another species, and with this proposal, I am sitting here as a local, and I'm not allowed to hunt deer in my own county on a general tag in the area my entire family has hunted for generations. What I would like to see, if you want to limit pressure on the mule deer, let the hunters pick their district. You put in for a district at the time of applying for tags, it's a guaranteed draw, but that is the only place I can hunt deer for that year. Not only does this make hunters focus on one area, but it would keep all the elk hunters from shooting every deer down there during rifle season. Most of the deer being harvested there are from the people that wouldn't commonly go there just to deer hunt. Once these regulations go into effect, they will never be undone. So the opportunity is taken away from the hunters and will never return to us again, even when the deer numbers improve. This is a huge loss for the general public and those who enjoy the districts because everything else down there is already a special draw. If you were to pursue limiting tags on a special draw, I would keep archery a general tag. I'm not a huge archery hunter myself, but at least I would have some sort of opportunity to hunt on a yearly basis. Very few deer are harvested during archery season, and at least a guy could hunt locally in some juncture. Here's a note from what I have been seeing this year. In certain areas of 410, I saw more deer than ever, 40 plus deer a day this season, while other areas are struggling. I think a lot of this is due to outside factors aside from just hunting pressure. Other than this year, we have been in a serious drought for the past 5 years, and this takes time for a herd to recover from. If this whole thing goes through, where are these hunters going to go? The opportunities in other districts around Lewistown are very limited, mostly all private. If you are taking away the largest area of public access available in the area if you do this. I really hope this message is not disregarded and my opinions are taken seriously.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have Daryl. If you could please spell your last name for the record.
Brabec, Brabec. I'm from Colstrip, Montana. And thank you, Madam Chair and Commission. Personally, I do not support the amendments on the elk for the areas of the 700s, as this amendment, even as a small amount, does adhere to the elk management plan as been approved by the Commission after public input. Additionally, the Colstrip Sportsman's Club met on December 7th and reviewed and proposed regulations and amendments, and as a group, they didn't support the amendments based on the new elk management plan. The deer management plan, I support the reduction of does. One of the things that the Commission is not looking and has not taken into consideration is the increase in mountain lion and bears and predators in our region. We have had numerous mountain lion sightings and bear sightings coming in the Colstrip area. And I know from general hunting areas, we were seeing an increase in bear, which will also affect our deer management plan. At this time, I would like to encourage you to use the elk management plan to set the limits and quotas as per the science involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Don Wilkins.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Don Wilkins. I live in Libby, Montana, Region 1, WILKINS. And I want to say I support the changes in the permit to hunt from vehicles being proposed in Region 1 for deer and elk. My only concern is there's almost 1,500 permits to hunt from vehicles in Region 1 that are given out every year. And with our elk numbers seem to be spiraling downhill, I would think that, or suggest that maybe down the road, the commission figures out a way to determine how many extra beyond the 25B licenses that are given out, where the people that have these permits to hunt from vehicles are shooting antlerless elk, and how really many antlerless elk we are harvesting in Region 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Michael Kelly.
Hello again, Michael Kelly, Kelly, out of Miles City, Montana. I'm going to disagree again on these amendments and oppose them. Again, it feels like these are coming from, I'm going to assume MOGA, a private interest group, and we're dictating policy for a public resource. On the grounds of that alone, I disagree with it. I could get behind lowering mule deer doe tags. I don't agree with private land still getting to go after them. It feels like outfitters are still gonna get money from that, while the public has to give up opportunity. And we should be waiting to decide anything on the either sex elk tags till after FWP's done their survey flights. So thank you. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, Representative Bort.
Representative Danley Logie from St. Regis, and I want to comment on Region 2 and actually part of Region 1 as well. Hunting District 201, there are 150 cow tags that are given out, and then an unlimited number of B tags in addition to that on private property. Well, I own the private property on the west end of the county that gets hunted and of that district. And I took that off of block management, the 201 B tags over the counter, because the pressure and the numbers of elk that we do not have in the western part of 201. Right across the river, we have districts 200 and 202 across the river from my properties. And one of those gives out 50 B tags. The other one gives out 5. We have districts 123 and 124 just to the north that only give out 50 tags each. So there are more tags in 201 than there are in 4 other districts that are around us. And the west end of the state gets forgotten. People are over numbers on elk all over, but in the west, ours have gone down. We used to be the Mecca in the 90s and 80s for hunting. And I think you need to start looking at western Montana and what we can do to bring those elk numbers back. Due to predator, but due to habitat as well. There are a lot of reasons, but I just feel 201, I'd like to see that divided. The west, about 4 years ago, they cut off the point at Deep Creek, and nothing west of that was over the counter tags, and I'd like to see that returned again, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Jess Wagner.
Chair Robinson, a member of the commission. My name is Jess Wagner. That's Wagner. I live in Lewistown. I do not support the removal of quarter ranges for buck and bull permits. There were 25 public comments against removing quarter ranges, as opposed to 0 comments supporting it. This will severely handcuff biologists and make it difficult to make quota changes based on unexpected events like bad winters. Any changes made will likely be made a year too late. And proposed changes should have an associated justification, and this proposal did not have one. We're keeping quarter ranges for literally every other species, including deer and elk B tags. So why get rid of them for bucks and bulls? The amendments regarding HD 700 elk permits do not follow the newly adopted elk management plan. Over the last decade, HD 700 has given out roughly 250 rifle permits and 800 archery permits. That management has kept the elk herd in 700 at an average of 1,250 elk and has never exceeded 1,450 elk. The bull to cow ratio has averaged 28 bulls per 100 cows. This proposed amendment will never allow this district to come close to reaching the objectives of 1,600 to 2,400 elk, or the 30 to 45 bulls per 100 cows. Montanans spent 3 years working together on the elk management plan, and we're already disregarding it 2 weeks into its implementation. The Oak Plan is meant to be the guide for our season setting and quota decisions, so let's use it as it was intended. I also strongly support the efforts to help mule deer in regions 4 and region 7. Additionally, I would recommend removing shoulder seasons in hunting districts such as 411 to 412 that are within objective ranges. This also goes against the goals of the new elk management plan. Thank you for your opportunity to comment.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Kyle Vandersloot.
Okay, go ahead.
Chair, hi, my name is Kyle Vanderstip, last name Vanderstoep. Chair Robertson, members of the commission, thank you for the opportunity to comment. I would like to voice my opposition to the amendment changing District 313's boundaries. Thus, hunting district change would lead to inconsistent management of the northern Yellowstone herd. The boundaries of these units have been validated using GPS collar data, which is why the historical boundary was changed. This would increase hunter pressure significantly on mule deer, bucks, and bulls due to the expanded season under 314's regulation.
Could you, I don't know if you could get closer to your speaker. We're having, it's just kind of muffled.
How about now?
Better.
Got it. Should I? Okay, I'll continue
Yes,
on.
go ahead and start over. I'll start the time over. Yep.
I appreciate it. I'd like to voice my opposition to the amendment changing District 313's boundaries. This hunting district change would lead to inconsistent management of the northern Yellowstone herd. The boundaries of this unit have been validated using GPS collar data, which is why the historical boundary was changed. This would increase hunter pressure significantly on mule deer, bucks, and bulls during the expanded season under the 314's regulations in an area where these species are already extremely pressured. There would be no additional cow opportunity with the new boundaries due to the portion regulations in 314. Even in the limited public comment period, the public has been overwhelmingly opposed to this amendment. I'd also like to voice my opposition to eliminating quota ranges for bucks and bulls as well. We should give the biologists the flexibility to adapt to changing conditions on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no more participants in the attendees room.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments before we go to a vote on this?
Madam Chair, just one point of clarification. Mr. Wakeling, just to be clear, the proposal for tightening or eliminating the quotas, that came from the department, did it not?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, yeah, that is correct. The department had heard that comment, and so we offered that up. The rationale behind our making that recommendation is, the permit quota ranges influence population trajectories to a very minimal amount. Bulls and bucks don't affect trajectory. And so in the event that we need to make a change, it's generally not as imminent. It's not something that we have the opportunity to respond to the commission and make a request for a special consideration. We do wish to retain that quota ranges for the B licenses for the antlerless, because those are that gives us the ability to respond to population changes and changes in direction. So that's the rationale for why the department made that recommendation.
So in fact, you are following science when you're making this recommendation.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair Tabor, that is correct.
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, if I might make a further comment on that. So as it relates to buck and bull permits, those opportunities are highly sought after, coveted by every applicant. It was the judgment of the department that a change to an opportunity like that deserved the public process that coming back to the commission requires. So it's not that the department cannot or may not choose to propose a quota change. We will simply come back to this body and ask for your assent to do so, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Sure.
Madam Chair.
I wasn't planning on making a motion in Region 6 today. I was surprised that there was no opposition to this mule deer doe proposal, but I really think it's a good stroke of business and hopefully we can get that through.
Any other comments? All right. All those in favor of the original motion with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if I count correctly, because one of them failed.
I have 8.
Okay. Oh, yep. I ran out of room. Yes. Okay. All right. So all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Mountain Lion.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, as with all the others, I'm just going to hit the highlights. So the season dates presented there, a couple of the proposed changes. The first one is currently, if you look within the regulations, there is a quota for the fall and archery season. And the way that's established is it's a percentage of the total quota. So 20% of the total quota. So if the commission establishes a quota of 10, we would have a quota of 2 for the fall and for the archery season. What we're proposing is that we eliminate that sub quota, if you will. And so any harvest, as it is now, any harvest that occurs during the fall or archery season would apply to the total quota. There just wouldn't be a limit. And to give you a perspective on that, typically of all the management units within the state, we usually hit that in just a handful. I think this year we're probably, I think it was 4 or 5, sometimes as high as 7, but it rarely limits opportunity. It kind of complicates the regulations to some degree, and also limits the take of lions in some instances. So the department's recommending that we eliminate that. We're also recommending that within units 141 and 150, aligning the winter season there to be consistent with, and essentially we're looking at the scapegoat wilderness, trying to make that similar to what it is in the Bob Marshall. And Region 3 is proposing to establish sex-based quotas. What sex-based quotas help us to do is to actually achieve population trajectories. In some instances, if we don't have those in place, what we wind up with is a harvest that may be skewed towards males, or may not harvest as many females as we want to, or it may overharvest females. So females are what really drives that population. So by establishing those sex-based quotas, we're hoping to be able to meet population trajectories that the commission may establish for us. And finally, looking to split 2 of the management districts in Region 6 into 2 into 4, so that we can manage that a little bit more precisely. And with that comes the hunting district descriptions that would go with those those splits, and also the quotas that would go with that.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission vote to approve changes identified in the Mountain Lion Regulation mock-up to include opportunity season states, quotas, and quota ranges as presented by the department, and all other mountain lion regulations contained in the 23 regulations except for those affected by regular calendar rotations unless addressed in some other proposal to be adopted for the 24-25 mountain lion hunting season and districts.
Is there a second? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Siebel.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Susan.
oh yeah, Commissioner Brook.
Following the June meeting of the season setting quotas for mountain lions in Region 3, we had a lot of blowback from the hunters that they thought the quotas were high and that they were going to hurt the mountain lion population. And in fact, the mountain lion census data that they're just beginning to collect right now in Region 3, the numbers aren't in. And so because of that, I would like to offer an amendment to strike all of the language regarding the change in Region 3 mountain lion LMUs that use a total quota with a female subquota to separate quotas for males and females with no total quota for each LMU, so that the hunting season will close for each sex independently when the quota for that sex is reached. And my reasoning, and I have talked to the biologists about this, we can revisit this at the June quota setting meeting for mountain lions for Region 3.
Do you need a copy of that?
Yeah. Or if you can just say it slowly, I
It's
can
good, you
type it.
just take it.
It's right at the bottom of this. It's on page 2 of 4 where they inserted that language. It's on the bottom of that page. And I'm just asking to strike all that language from this amendment.
Starting at change.
Yes. Strike all that language.
Strike that language. Thank you,
Yes.
Commissioner.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm going to try and get this up here to make sure that I've got it right.
Okay, but is that a friendly amendment from that would the Commissioner Tabor and Commissioner Siebel would accept?
I'm still a little confused, so
Me too.
I'm
I'd like
trying to find where this language is that Commissioner Brook is.
On the cover sheet? Cover sheet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right, we just set those quotas in June.
Oh, that would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Would you like to just look at that? Did you find it, Commissioner Siebel?
I found the language. I'm just a little confused as because if Commissioner Brook could repeat, she wants to strike from the word change forward the next 4 lines.
Yes.
So instead of we would go back to a total quota for each LMU.
Correct, the total quota that we just passed in June.
So at least from my perspective, I'm not compelled to change my motion. If you want to make a separate motion for that, I just restate the reason why you're doing this, because I don't really understand why we would be doing this now.
I don't understand why we're doing the quotas now, because we just did the quotas 6 months ago. And now we're adjusting them to have sub quotas.
So Madam Chair, sorry, Commissioner Brooks, the way I view this, the female male quotas, that's a management tool and pretty consistent with all our other regions in the way we manage lions. And so drawing from the experiences of regions 1 and 2, it's a mechanism to control the overharvest of males in particular, because there's usually mostly focus on males. So you're not getting to your population objectives if you don't put some kind of limit on the males. And so that's why I saw that this was put in. Now, these numbers can and probably will be changed in June in terms of either overall totals or ratio. But in terms of putting in the science of managing both male and female, and putting that into the regulations, that seems like a sensible move for us to do. That's why made the motion.
Vice Chair Tabor, it's the main reason I'm bringing this amendment today is because the people that were opposed to this very involved in the quota setting are now upset because they don't want the sub quotas. And it isn't going to change much, this at all, really, if they wait until June to do this, which they can do this in June, correct?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Brook, that is correct. We can't add this in June.
And that's what I'm trying to accomplish with that. Instead of doing this today, that we do it in June when all the lion hunters are paying attention and can be involved in this decision.
Commissioner Burrows.
Could I just get a clarification? Because I'm having a hard time figuring out what exactly we're saying by striking that. Because there is a female sub quota now. That's correct, in those units. And that's the data on page 3, that information with the male female quotas.
I know.
So I guess I'm not even tracking on what exactly this language changes right now.
Right. And the public's not, I mean, the lion hunters have not weighed in at all on this in Region 3.
But we
And
established a quota with a female quota, correct? During the, didn't we have a male female quota when you, at Region 2 we did?
Brian, could you speak to that, please?
I'm not sure I heard the last of that question. I was trying to
That there was
find a way to
already
illustrate it
female sub
within-
quotas.
within the regs itself, the mock-up. But essentially, as I understand Commissioner Brooks' recommendation or amendment, is that if we look at what the season structure was last year, that's what you would like to retain going forward for Region 3 for this year, with the concept that we would consider this particular change in June.
Correct.
So, Madam Chair,
Okay, I'm gonna let Warren Hanson, I think he's got a better handle on exactly what the specific question is.
Okay, go ahead.
If I understand the question correctly, yes, the region has a female sub quota. The region's proposal is to also have a male sub quota.
Madam Chair, so point of clarification on that. Is that to create consistency with the other districts or the other regions in the way we are managing quotas and lion quotas in general?
Correct.
And then the other question, because I know I presented this in the pre-commission meeting, there is no proposal in the change of the number of lions at this point in each of these hunting districts for Region 3. You know, because I had asked that question, I said, and I think the answer that came back from the department is no, because that would be done in the June meeting. So all this is really doing is taking a number that was already established. And I might remind Commissioner Brook that even though there was a call for reduction pretty much statewide for lions, you know, at the request of this same group, we did not go down in the increase the lion harvest for Region 3. We kept it at fairly at historical levels. And so all this is taking is the historical levels of the quotas and then divvying up between male and female at this juncture.
If you don't take it as a friendly amendment, we can vote on this amendment, and then Commissioner Brook, you could try with another amendment. Okay. Any other discussion before we vote on the amendment on the table? Commissioner Burrows?
Does everybody else understand exactly what the difference in this motion is? Because I guess I'm still not tracking.
Sure.
Maybe it's simple and I'm missing it, but it seems like we're kind of talking about the same thing. We've already set a female quota. And you want to strike this language that talks about
That's not the motion that's on the table now, though. They have not accepted that as a friendly amendment. So the motion is, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chair. I just was wondering the display up on the screen, if we scroll up a little bit, might help answer. I understand, not speaking to one motion or another, what I understand Commissioner Burrows to be asking is, what is the difference? And the conversation has interchanged subquotas and quotas. So a little bit of 3, Sarah, if you would, and a little bit of 4, if you would scroll up. That's good. That's good. And so what I understand, the start of this conversation, Commissioner Brooks' proposed amendment was to stay with the quota structure in Region 3 that's in place right now for the current lion season, and to not go to gender-based quotas. And that's just so everybody understands. So if you look at the top half up there, those are the Region 3 quotas, and that's a female subquota with a total quota. And so how that works is the total quota could be filled completely by males, but no more than at the bottom one in 391, 4 could be females. So it has a potential to be a more conservative approach in that you don't necessarily take any females if the total quota gets filled with all males. Contrast that with 404, where if you're going to reach 4, 2 of them need to be females and 2 of them need to be males. So that's 2 quotas, gender-based quotas, versus the in place right now in Region 3 subquota within the total, which I understand Commissioner Brook is looking to hold until spring. If that helps, Chair. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Does that help?
it does. So basically, maybe some of your constituents that you're hearing from just want that ability to fill the total quota with males. And so I guess the crux of the question to us is now is, are we okay if we fill the quota either way? Do we want to require a couple of females be harvested to fill that quota? Or are we okay with just filling it with males? Because in essence,
so the amendment that's on the table would have the male and female quota. So that is a question you have to ask yourself when voting for it.
Yeah, the motion on the table right now requires females to be harvested to fill the quota.
Yes.
Versus if we go with potentially what
Correct.
you're saying, we could fill it either way.
Madam Chair. One other comment, the motion on the table essentially gets Region 3 to be consistent with the way we're doing it in all the other regions relative to male and female. So Region 3 would be the exception in terms of how we're managing lions statewide.
It is.
Madam Chair.
If we adopt
Yes.
that.
Commissioner Siebel.
Just another point of clarification with the existing the total quota and this female subquota in Region 3. I just need to understand if the female subquota is met before the overall quota is met, that region that LMU shuts down, correct?
Robinson, Commissioner Siebel. No, that then would require all the remaining lions to fill the quota to be males.
Okay.
Commissioner Siebel.
Thank you for the clarification.
Any other clarifications before we go to a vote on this amendment? Wait a minute. Is it amendment or is it the actual motion? It's just okay. So I guess I can take an amendment. If you would like to make a motion to.
Madam
We
Chair,
don't have an amendment.
the
We have-
question was whether it would be a friendly amendment or not.
Right, but she can make an amendment that we have to vote on that would change this. Because this is the original motion.
We haven't voted, Madam Chair, on this, have we?
No, because we won't vote on it. We won't vote on the original motion until we hear public comment.
Understood.
But if there is an amendment, we can make an amendment and vote on that before we go to public comment. Which is no different than what we've done with all the rest of them. It's been a long day.
So I believed, Madam Chair, I did make an amendment to the motion but there was not
Is there
a
a
second.
okay, is there a second? One more.
For the sake of discussion, I'll second.
Okay. Okay, so the motion is to remove the wording from change on down. Discussion?
So in your discussion, Madam Chair, in your discussion with your constituents, they were okay and you're okay with having Region 3 be an exception to the rule statewide, different from Region 1 and 2 with this different way of filling the quota?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Burrows, it didn't get down to that because a lot of these mountain lion hunters that had reached out to me, they're hunting. And so they didn't know this was happening. And so my point in this is not to stop this from happening, but to postpone it until a quota setting when they can be involved in the decision.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair, so one element of this, because it came up in deer and elk and everything else. So if you do not adopt consistency between all the districts throughout the LMUs statewide, that will make these LMUs in 300 the most attractive ones in the state. And since we're on an unlimited license ability, that means anybody from the state can claim those to be the districts that they'll come hunt because they have the best opportunity to get males. And that's probably an unintended consequence that they didn't get a chance to think through. I would indicate too that really nobody's actually started hunting much because the weather hasn't really permitted it. So this has been noticed for many, days prior to this. So it's not like this just happened today. So I still think that we, for consistency's sake, do not put this amendment in. They have another pretty material bite at the apple, which is in June, to make you whatever types of changes. But I would think to be consistent between male and female quotas so that we're doing that unilaterally across the state and therefore putting all the LMUs on an even keel so that you can pick the district you want to go was kind of the whole master design in the first place. So for that reason, I will not be voting for this amendment.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Brooke.
I was wondering if, Quentin, if you could tell us why was Region 3 excluded from it in the first place?
Chair Robinson, Commissioner Brooke, I'm not sure I can answer why. I can say that for a long time, this diversity has been in place. You've seen, for example, in my experience, Region 4 has a long history of no total quota, but 2 gender-based quotas. And for the same longest time, Region 3 has the total quota with the female subquota. Those components have been in places in each of those regions in contrast, in diversity for a long time. It goes beyond my time here to say just exactly why one region went one way and the other went the other. Sorry, I fall short in that regard, Commissioner Brooke, Chair.
How long has this been noticed? When did everything go out for notice?
And Chair Robinson, specific, you're speaking to, because what I think we're talking here is the department's recommendations. Is that correct? Do I
Yes.
understand? Do I interpret
Correct.
that correctly?
Yeah.
So
This specifically, yes.
So Brian, Eric, can you help us recall when this went out for public review?
This has been part, was this part of the June, July discussions? Yeah. So this has been part of the department's discussion and the department's recommendation. It was a concept that came up early on. So we did discuss this at the June and July public meetings and then retained it and went forward with it. And it was at all of the early November question and answers. It was posted shortly after the October commission meeting. So this has been, in our estimation, part of our public process for a while.
Any other questions or comments before we vote on the amendment? All right, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails. Okay, we will go. Any other comments or amendments? Okay, we'll go to public comment on Mountain Lion. Anyone here that would like to comment?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, my name is Rod Bullis, and I'm one of these old houndsmen. And I want to give you a little history about why this 20% to keep it is important. Up until the late 80s, a person without hounds and without a mountain lion license could not harvest a mountain lion, period. Okay, it had to be done with dogs. And we houndsmen were really criticized by the boot hunters for being selfish and not providing them the opportunity. So what we did is we agreed in great meetings that 20% of the quotas by hunting districts would be acceptable for the non-hound hunters. And that's worked for over 20 years. Now, what happens if you don't have hound dogs? You're out here in the woods and you see a mountain lion, you shoot it, you go up there, and more often than not, it's a lactating female. So there's this shoot without identifying, which is totally unethical. And it provides the opportunity for more illegal. Then you shoot it, and then here comes 3 cubs trying to nurse on a dead female. I've been there. So this 20% going away from it is the wrong thing to do. What we have in place works really well. I'm going to stop on that lecture, but in Hunting District 280, where I'm at in the Blackfoot, all the males have been killed, all 6 of them, and 50% of the females have been killed as of yesterday. So you get a hunting district, it gets a skip of snow, everybody and their brother comes in there. And that's what happened in the Blackfoot. So anyway, this 20% is a good thing. It's a good thing. And going away from it, it is almost immoral. Thank you.
Thank you. If you guys don't mind maybe lining up so we could get the comments done. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I'm Jeff Lucas with the Wildlife Federation. Mountain lions are a native and cherished wildlife species, and conservation-minded hunters have done a remarkable job bringing back lions from the brink. As such, in no way can Montana Wildlife Federation support eliminating a standalone license for lions in units 141 and 150. Similarly, simply moving an unlimited quota would be a better option. It does not address the management issues which the agency seemingly wishes to impose, which would be to increase harvest in a low harvest unit that can sustain the increased take of mountain lions. To that end, we ask the agency to look at other methods, including working with outfitters and local hunters to come up with ways to improve hunter participation in the wilderness lion hunts, rather than reduce the ethical parameters for the hunt for them. MWF otherwise supports statewide proposals regarding mountain lion season structures, subquotas for females and males. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak to mountain lion? Okay, do we have anyone in the regional offices who would like to speak about mountain lion?
Madam Chair, we have no comment from the regional offices.
Okay, do we have any hands raised?
Madam Chair, we have a hand raised in the Zoom attendee room. I will let them in at your pleasure.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have an attendee. If you could please state your name and spell your last name, please.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, this is Casey York, Y-O-R-K, with Trap-Free Montana, out of the Bitterroot. As we've commented this year on the lion proposals, we do not support the increased killing of mountain lions, nor the lengthening of any mountain lion season. Particularly concerning to us are the 191 lions reported trapped and snared in Montana in the last 11 trapping seasons. There are no records of whether they're male or female. And that's really important. It's important knowledge that is not being provided or maybe even obtained. These are just the ones on the FWP reports, the 191, and they're increasing with increased wolf trapping. Up until a few years ago, and in response to our Trap Free Montana pressuring the department for change, lions did not even have to be reported trapped or snared unless they were injured, dead, or caught in wolf trap sets. Over half of the trapped lions, roughly 59%, were killed. Those are just the ones known who died. The fate of the injured in the trap release lions remains bleak, especially given we have no required trap check time, and the exception for wolf mandated 48-hour trap checks is double the standard recommendation to reduce injury and increase chances of survivability. Again, why don't these lions never come off the quota? Why don't they count? And why don't they matter? Why don't they matter to you, to the department? Because they certainly do to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Helena, if you could please spell your last name.
Last name is Edelson. Good afternoon, Director, Chair Robinson, and Commissioners. Helena Edelson, representing Large Carnivore Fund in Gardner, Montana, Region 3. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. First, I'd like to echo the comments by Casey York, Trap Free Montana. Additionally, we do not support the changes for any LMUs to allow hunting during the winter season with any valid hunting license specifically. We do not support the length of the winter season being from December 1st to April 14th and would like to see that season reduced. The statewide mountain lion quota is high, which also seems to be supported by hunter effort in the field. We support responsible male-female subquotas to allow more granularity when rapid response is needed, and we recommend all female subquotas be reduced because of cascading deaths with the orphan young. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have no more attendees online.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions before we go to a vote? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, the Flathead Indian Reservation non-member fishing and bird hunting regulations, please.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this is an annual request that based on a cooperative agreement that we have with the Consolidated Salish and Kootenai tribes. Essentially what this is the tribes provide us with their seasons and specifically the seasons that are available for the non-members to participate on. And what this allows the department to do is based on the approval of the commission of the agreement and of the what they've provided as far as the regulations, this allows our enforcement personnel to participate in the enforcement of non-member opportunities within the CSKT. And so, and also on the Flathead Indian Reservation, which is what their reservation is named. And so with that, the department's recommendation is that the Fish and Wildlife Commission approve this agreement for this year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I would entertain a motion if not.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission approve the 2024-2025 Flathead Indian Reservation non-member fishing and bird hunting regulations as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Lane, seconded by Commissioner Tabor. Any questions? Okay, anyone present?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Jeff Lucas with MWF. MWF supports each of the regulation changes proposed for non-residents on the Flathead Reservation regarding northern pike, brook trout, bats, bullfrogs, as well as protections for nesting birds and wildlife. MWF opposes ending any catch and release regulations for trout on the Flathead and Jocko rivers. Populations of trout on these rivers are relatively low, and they are currently sustained by catch and release regulations. Non-residents harvesting trout out of these river systems will only lower trout populations and result in lower quality fishing experience on these rivers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commenters? Okay. Is there anyone in the regional offices who would like to speak to this motion?
Madam Chair, we have no comment from the regional offices.
Okay. Do we have anyone in Zoom that would like to comment?
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask anyone in Zoom to please raise their hand if they wish to comment on the matter at hand. Madam Chair, there is no comment on Zoom.
Thank you. So just so I don't forget, I just want to thank you for your help today. You've been very helpful and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Almost done, Brian.
Yes. I've got you warmed up for Parks and Recreation. So the final thing that I have to present is the translocation of Martin with the North Bridger, Big Snowy, and the Crazy Mountains. You may recall when we presented the trapping regulations to the commission in August, we asked for the Martin trapping closure for this area. That was approved by the commission. This activity is a continuation of our translocation efforts. We've been doing so for the past couple of years into the Little Belts and for the last year into the Cascade. And so the initial reports are that, the Castles. The initial reports based on some monitoring that we've been doing with cameras is that we are seeing some recaptures, photographic recapture of the animals. It's hard to say just how successful it has been so far, but we are seeing some persistence there and we'd like to continue that. And so we need to have the commission's approval to continue this translocation. And so our recommendation is that the commission approve the translocation into those mountain ranges.
All right, thank you. Entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the Fish and Wildlife Commission approve the proposed, I lost it. Where did it go? Anybody else got it? I had it right in front of me.
Madam Chair.
I move that the Fish and Wildlife Commission approve the proposed translocation of up to 150 marten over 6 years, beginning in the winter of 23-24, as presented by the department.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Lane. Any discussion? Okay. Is there anyone present who would like to speak to that?
Good afternoon, Chair Robinson and members of the commission. I'm Savannah Johnston from Butte, and I'm representing Footloose, Montana. Today, I express our gratitude about the trapping regulations put in place regarding the relocation efforts of the marten. We think that it's important to acknowledge that past unregulated trapping practices necessitate this translocation to begin with. So while restoring martens to historically present areas is commendable, the success of this effort hinges on comprehensive population data and stringent regulations. Let us prioritize scientific rigor, sustainability, and the well-being of our ecosystem in our wildlife management decisions. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present? Is there anyone in the regional offices who would like to speak to this?
Madam Chair, there's no comment from the regional offices.
Okay. Go ahead with the Zoom commenters, please.
Madam Chair, I have Casey York.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, it's Casey York again with Trap Free Montana out of Region 2 in the Bitterroot. The cover sheet says marten are abundant in Regions 2 and 3, but fails to provide the evidence. Studies are reportedly underway or planned for 2024 to gain better insight into marten populations in our state. But be aware, marten are permitted to be trapped and killed in Regions 1 through 5 in unlimited numbers. Only Region 1 has a per trapper quota. This is counterproductive to marten occurring and sustaining in suitable habitat and enabling surplus for relocation efforts in areas they were previously trapped out. Trappers in Montana killed at least 5,000 marten in 5 recent years, according to the reports, averaging about 1,000 marten per year. Less than 2 decades ago, they killed at least 4 times as many as they do now in Region 1. Meanwhile, in comparison, trappers are hammering marten in Region 2, but no one seems to care, maybe because very few know. Now you do. Instead, the plan is trap more from here to reintroduce to areas they were wiped out previously in order to later trap and kill them again. Also, where's the environmental assessment or the cost for these translocations? An easy, responsible, relevant precursor to this would be instilling trapping quotas for marten. Please oppose this proposal until biological, ecological, and financial issues are addressed, and you set trapping quotas to conserve marten and then complement any reintroductions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there's no further comment online.
Okay. Hearing no other comments, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Roykling. Good day today. Okay. I think I saw Hope walk. Oh, yep, hiding in the corner. We're ready for you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. For the record, Hope Stockwell, Administrator of the Parks and Outdoor Recreation Division here at Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks. And I wish I could say this would be short and sweet. It's going to take a little bit of time. I apologize. But just to refresh you, we're coming back to the proposed consolidated public use rules for lands administered by FWP. These are administrative rules of Montana in the ARM. At your August meeting, you moved forward with authorizing us to file an administrative rule notice with the Secretary of State for the consolidated rules. And again, the purpose is just to bring together the 3 sets of rules that we previously had for our site types and lands into one consolidated set. And we're hoping to improve customer service, improve consistency, improve the public's understanding of what's expected of them. So we've gone through the rulemaking process. The notice was posted in the Montana Administrative Register on September 8th, which kicked off the public comment period. That ran through October 10th. We had a public hearing on October 2nd. And because of the comments we've received, we have proposed changes to the rules, and those proposed changes are presented to you in the proposed adoption notice that's in front of you for consideration today. I do want to walk through a couple of the major items that came through those proposed changes. Based on the public comments we did receive. First, we received numerous comments related to the new Rule 13 on weapons and our sites. And there was a lot of concern about inadvertently getting in the way of the Second Amendment right to bear arms. And so the rules have been amended to fix that language and clarify that using a weapon on public land has to follow state law, and also emphasizes that a plea of self-defense is always allowed. This decision to prohibit weapons discharge in certain places or areas would be based by the department on concern for human safety and protecting resources and property. The rule would not prevent the discharge of weapons that's associated with hunting where authorized on our sites. So we did clarify that language, and we think that we've come to a good solution there for those concerns that were raised. Next, we had some comments related to the rules as proposed reducing or restricting use and access on public lands from what they were. And this was not our intent. Some of the wording in the original rules that were proposed were intended for consistency. We did try and take care to ensure that we weren't diminishing recreation opportunities, but there were a couple of instances that were pointed out where language was lost or written in such a way that it caused confusion. Specifically, commenters let us know that they thought the rules would change access status to the department lands from open unless posted closed to closed unless posted open. They were very concerned about that. They also saw that as a change that would be significant enough to trigger a MEPA analysis with the Montana Environmental Policy Act. So we recognize the original language included some grammatical choices that could arguably be understood this way. And so we worked to make changes that would correct that, because again, that was not intended. We were looking to preserve the opportunity and access that we have through existing rules. So because we, again, updated that language to better reflect that, and that we are not changing these things, we have determined with legal consideration that a MEPA analysis is not required. There's no significant impact, no significant changes occurring. If the department did act at a public use site to do something that would potentially significantly impact the human environment, we would propose a MEPA analysis. However, MEPA is not required simply by conducting rulemaking. Another thing we wanted to bring awareness to, because there was concern raised in the comments that we received, specific to site-specific conditions for wildlife management areas related to specific open and closed dates for those, or perhaps motorized use, snowmobiling being a specific example. We wanted to make clear as we go forward, there are two types of rules that will still be applicable to WMAs. So we'll have this broad consolidated public use rule. These are the broad strokes of what's allowed on our lands. Then we'll still need site-specific biennial or annual rules that'll come back through the commission for those specific date closures for places where they're not just under the regular winter management closure, and for where sites where snowmobiling, for instance, is allowed. We expect to bring those site-specific biennial or annual use rules back to you either at the February or April commission meeting. So stay tuned for those. Those are still in place, will not be lost. Wanted to make sure that everybody heard that message. And then one other thing to bring up, we received several comments on how FWP will keep the public informed about use rules at our sites, regardless of what the rule is. And we just contend and commit that we will continue to do so through a lot of avenues. We currently do that using signs at sites, information on our website, maps at sites, on the website, social media, other public awareness campaigns. We know we can always improve and do better, and we do already have plans for doing that. We have a new administrative assistant in the Parks and Recreation Division, and one of her winter projects, along with her supervisor, who is here with us today, is to work through the web pages for all of our sites and update them and make sure they're accurate for the types of activities that are allowed at those sites, linking to the rules that are applicable to those sites. It's going to be a big undertaking, but she's terrific. Jaden Ewart is her name. We're glad to have her on board, and she's going to be helping us do that. We also have sign improvement money that we received from the 2021 and 2023 legislatures that we'll be using as we need to upgrade and update signs at our sites. So we do have funding to support that. The last item to bring for you in front of this is there are a couple of clerical edits that legal worked through, and I see that Ms. Clergett is displaying. So on page 3 of the draft adoption notice, we caught in subsection 1D that there was a reference to recreation site, and it should be a public use site. So we proposed that today, if you would include that in your motion. And then also on pages 5 and 6 of the proposed adoption notice are references to new Rule 20. And in subsection 3D, there's a numerical reference to subsection 5 of that rule. And that relates to sites that are designated for permitted public assembly. The subsection reference is just wrong. It's referencing sub 3 and it should be subsection 5. So that's a clerical error that we'd ask both of those be included in your motion today, Madam Chair and members. So to try and give you an overview of what the motion should be based on all of this, I would recommend alternative B from your cover sheet to adopt as final the proposed consolidated set of public use rules with edits drafted by FWP in response to the public comments received as reflected in the draft rule adoption notice, plus the 2 clerical edits that were proposed today and reflected on the screen by Ms. Clergett for all land types that FWP administers to improve consistency and customer service. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Questions? I'd entertain a motion if we're ready for that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Siebel.
yes, is Hope recommended. I'll go with alternative B. Adopt is, Madam Chair, I move that the Fish Wildlife Commission adopt as final the proposed consolidated set of public use rules with edits drafted by FWP in response to public comments received as reflected in the draft rule adoption notice, along with the clerical corrections proposed today for all FWP land types to improve consistency and customer service.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Lane. Any clarifications or questions before we go out for public comment? Okay. Is there anyone in the room who would like to comment? Is there anyone in the regional offices who would like to comment?
Madam Chair, the regional offices have no comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead with Zoom commenters, please.
Madam Chair, Casey York.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Casey York again with Stratford, Montana. While consolidating arms seemed reasonable and benign, it raised red flags early on, and rightfully so. Unbeknownst to the general public, FWB has since changed the language to now allow trapping on wildlife management areas and fishing access sites, even including state parks. The Rule 14, page 4 says now they will be open to trapping unless prohibited and posted closed. One of the only deemed illegal trapping and injuring of a dog years ago was because it occurred in a fishing access site in the Bitterroot. FWP wrote this change is based on public comment from an October 2nd public hearing. Actually, no meeting notice was received, and it took an intensive search to even find the meeting notice, which is becoming more of a pattern. There's no minutes or public recording available of the meeting to review. And the published written comments focus on weapon changes, and none, not one, encourage opening more trapping, especially in state parks. Therefore, supporting this proposal and allowing trapping in all these public areas, for example, a fishing access site can be 1 acre to several hundred, is disingenuous and downright dangerous to the recreating public. An average of 35 trap dogs a year make it onto the reports. This new arm begs to increase that and flirts with human disaster, whether it be an unsuspecting angler, children, hikers, clueless new residents, or tourists. Please oppose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there is no more comment online.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Madam Chair and members, the next item in front of you today is for weapons restrictions for certain state parks. After we went through the consolidated public use rule process, we recognized that we needed to do a better job incorporating the restrictions and closures for hunting in certain state parks in the regulatory in the regulations process that you're going through today. And so today we bring forward the first cover sheet related to weapons restrictions for certain state parks so that these can be included in the regs going forward. They have not been in the past, and it's a place where we need to improve the information we're providing to the public. So today in front of you is a list of proposed state parks that would be open to commission established hunting seasons, but with a weapons restriction. The exception, and that would be the usual weapons restriction: archery, crossbow, traditional handguns, muzzleloader, or shotgun, except for at Tower Rock in Region 4, where the hunting would be restricted to archery equipment only. And then we did find an error between this proposal and another one that's in front of the Parks Board on Tuesday. The Lewis and Clark Caverns should not be included in the weapons restriction list. That location is instead on Tuesday in front of the board for the closure of hunting on the eastern half of the property. The western half will be open and it will not be restricted on weapons. All weapons and seasons will be allowed. So it should be removed from this list in your motion today, Madam Chair and members.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess I have a question. Before you had mentioned self-defense, is there, how does that apply to this?
For weapons restriction, I know what I would say, but I'll defer to our attorney, who's the better choice when responding to those kinds of questions.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, my name is Jamie McNaughton. I'm one of agency legal counsels over Fish, Wildlife and Parks. Yes, self-defense would still apply on any of the lands at the state parks, especially after we pass those rules specifically stating that.
Okay, all right, thank you for the clarification. Any other question, Commissioner Walsh?
Madam Chair, I move the Fish and Wildlife Commission adopt as final the proposed weapons restrictions for the state parks listed here with the exception of Lewis and Clark Caverns.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Siebel, for the second. Okay. Any other questions before I go out for comment? Okay, would anyone like to comment on this?
I'm sure you're all tired of seeing me walk to the podium, so I'll keep it quick. Madam Chair, members of the commission, I'm Jeff Lucas with MWF. The Federation supports expanding hunting opportunities in these few select state parks through easing weapon restrictions where it's deemed appropriate by the agency. These are reasonable proposals to keep public safety in mind while giving the public a few more places to hunt, which could disperse hunting efforts slightly. If public safety proves to be jeopardized after implementation of these proposals, it's our hope that these regulations will be modified at future commission meetings to ensure that public safety is held in a higher regard than hunting opportunities within these state parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commenters? Anyone in the regional offices?
Madam Chair, we have no comments from the regional offices.
Okay, looks like we may have one in Zoom.
Madam Chair, Ken Sinay.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello and thank you. My name is Ken Sinay, Sinay in Bozeman, Montana. My comments are with regard to Missouri Headwaters State Park. I suggest the commission amend the final proposed weapons restrictions for the listed parks to close Missouri Headwaters State Park to all hunting. While it may not be part of this proposal, trapping should also be eliminated from the park itself. Missouri Headwaters is approximately 540 acres, less than 1 square mile, so it is small, but it is also long and narrow in shape and bisected in a linear fashion with the paved road to Trident, which is used as a haul road by the Trident mine. If you look at a park map, you will see numerous trails, parking areas, and developed areas. There are also numerous social trails, and be aware children simply like to explore off trail. The park is used by dog walkers, strollers, families, bicyclists, wildlife watchers, photographers, horse riders, floaters, fisher folk, campers, picnickers, cultural history aficionados, and these people come from the town of Three Forks to which it is connected by a paved trail and is only 3 miles away, the entire valley and tourists. The people use the park year-round, any time of day, and rarely wear fluorescent orange and aware of hunting seasons. Missouri Headwaters provides tremendous wildlife, natural, and cultural history values. These values attract an incredible number of visitors, which has been increasing exponentially. In 2015, there were 33,000 visitors. In 2019, 52,000. And in 2021, 75,000 visitors, an increase of 23,000 visitors over a 2-year period. The park is essentially too small for hunting due to safety issues and potential user conflicts. The majority of Montana landscapes are hunted. It is appropriate to have sites on which the public can recreate without fear of hunting conflict or potential threat. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, there are no further comments online.
Okay, Commissioner Walsh.
Yeah, a question for Ms. Stockwell. I'm curious about Headwaters State Park. Did you evaluate that?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Walsh, we did look at Headwaters. Headwaters is, I should have mentioned, a new weapons restriction proposal this year, as is Madison Buffalo Jump, based on site-specific conditions. We have allowed all types of hunting at Headwaters in the past, but this year particularly have seen conflict between user types, but also between hunters. And so the weapons restriction was, we thought, an appropriate step to next evaluate the opportunity there at Headwaters without entirely closing it off.
Go ahead.
I've fallen. What's the
Yes.
timing on that?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair and Commissioner Walsh, I'm having a brain freeze. The timing on the timing for a weapons restriction?
On this list.
Headwaters State Park would be on this list for a weapons restriction that would be in effect for the fall of 2024.
You need to
I'm confused because I don't see it on the list.
Missouri Headwaters.
Missouri, oh, I apologize. Thank you.
That's okay.
Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, what we have left is public comment, items not on the agenda. Just a reminder that this is for items not on the agenda.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, my name is Ben Lamb, and I am here representing a new organization called the Montana Conservation Society. I have a lengthy and pedantic letter that I would like to hand out.
Go ahead and give it to Eric there, please.
But I just wanted to stand up and say on behalf of MCS, it's a new organization made up of Montanans of all stripes, landowners, hunters, anybody that wants to come forward. The organization has been brought together pretty much out of the results of the 2023 legislative session and the kind of collaboration that we saw actually move the needle on a large number of contentious issues. And so one of those very large contentious issues was an elk management plan that got finalized here just recently. And we just wanted to really commend the agency, the director, the wildlife division, and especially Lindsay Parson for putting together an incredible document, provides an amazing amount of flexibility and an amazing amount of opportunity for the public to influence how elk will be managed in the future. And we look forward to working with the department to help implement some of those exciting things in there relative to habitat manipulation, relative to predator-prey balances, relative to the allocation issue as well. And so we just really wanted to thank the agency and the commission adopting this and the huge amount of effort that went into creating a document that we hope will really help guide and reduce conflict in the future. That's all we wanted to say. Thank you very much. I hope you guys have an enjoyable evening.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission, Director Temple. Just want to, Mac Menard, Executive Director of MOGA. Want to invite you guys to the Montana Outfitters and Guides Winter Convention. It'll be here in Helena on the 12th and 13th of January. And we've got a packed agenda. Drop in. There'll be 150 businesses represented from across the state. Would be delighted to have you guys join us for a little bit of that. We host our Big Hearts Banquet Saturday night. That's the philanthropic giving side of MOGA. It's about as big as MOGA actually is now. And we served, I think, 6 families underneath that program, and would be delighted if anybody wanted to stop in and meet a couple of them. I also want to invite you to a first of its kind Shiras Moose Management and Research Symposium. This is a tri-state effort on the part of MOGA to pull the leading researchers and managers from across the western states, celebrating and understanding better about Shiras Moose management challenges, where we are with the status. It's kind of consistent with the award of the moose tag that you guys provided us months ago, and that we will auction off on the same day that this symposium is taking place. To my knowledge, this is probably the largest of its kind. I'm not sure we've ever had something quite this big for Shiras Moose. It's not inconsistent with what MOGA does. We try to do one of these each year, and with the tag in our pocket, we figured, what the heck, we'll do it this way. And we did get Guy Eastman will come in and sort of finish it up for us with a few stories on hunting Shiras Moose. So that's Saturday. It's open to the public. Would certainly invite anybody that wanted to come Saturday morning and be part of that. Certainly the staff. It'd be fun to have a whole bunch of you guys there. After about 20 years with MOGA, this is the last time that I'll
I will
appear.
let you continue with.
Okay, it'll be about the last time that I appear before you as representing MOGA. It's been a real honor and a privilege to do it. Obviously, we've had some real ups and downs over the years, and yeah, if I was allowed to be having my hat on here, I'd give a tip of the hat to every one of you for the hard work that you and your predecessors have done on behalf of the people of the state of Montana and the resources in which you are stewards. So with that, I appreciate the effort. Thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for your service. Mhm. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Anyone in the regional offices?
Madam Chair, there's no comment in the regional offices.
Okay. I guess we have a couple on Zoom, so we'll take those.
Madam Chair, Casey York.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, it's been a long day, but this is important to us and all the wildlife we represent. We want to know, when are other species besides big game and large predators going to get your attention and be on the agenda, such as spotted skunks, snowshoe hares, beaver, the 5-pound rare swift fox, and revisiting fisher? Years ago, FWP wrote an article, "Where Have All the Porcupines Gone?" Once numerous, they have reportedly disappeared in western Montana mountains. Who cares? Worse, porcupine are legally trapped, unlimited, unreported, no trapping license required, and year-round in our state. Wildlife do not operate in a vacuum. All are interconnected. They are threatened by habitat loss, encroachment by people, and climate change. These many species are ones you are entrusted to oversee, and for all of us, under the public trust. It's past time conservation, not consumption, dictate wildlife management in Montana, and these other wildlife receive your much needed and immediate effective attention and action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Daryl, if you could please expel your last name for the record, please.
Daryl Brabec, B-R-A-B-E-C. First, I'd like to thank the commission for all their work. I would like to address the procedures that you use once the amendments have been made on proposals, and then the entire motion or the entire regulation is voted on, it doesn't seem like there's any discussion on public input on the various individual amendments. And so that makes me question really how well our public input is taken into effect. So I would like you to consider that as you move forward with your procedures to better open up and have that meet some of the open meeting laws. And again, thank you. And it's been a long day, so have a good evening.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for participating today. It's been a long but a good day. I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and safe travels. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas, everyone.